Dad, at the top of his lungs, don't leave me! Don't leave me! And I'm there in my vehicle and tears are just coming down my eyes. I want to welcome you back again for another story answering the question, is God active? You may have asked yourself or been wondering, why is there so much suffering or evil in the world? Why has God allowed this? A number of years ago, my sister called my wife and said, hey, I'm wondering, would you be willing to take in a mother and a small baby? They're living on the streets and they have nowhere to go. Would you be willing to take them in? And so my wife, she was like, wow. Yeah, let me talk to Luke. So she gave me a call and she was like, Luke, there's this little tiny baby, about 8 months old, and this mother living on the streets. And what do you think? Would we take them in? I'm like, absolutely. Later that day, my sister came and was going to drop off the mother and the baby. But the mother decided not to stay, and this little 8-month-old baby got dropped off at our doorstep, just in a diaper. There's a lot I could tell you about that story, but I want to fast forward. And during this time, there was a lot of different things that happened, but we were bound by some rules. The mother would say to us, I want you to drop him off at this house. So we'd have to take him and we'd have to drop there. I want you to take him here, there. It was always like whatever she said we had to do. This one particular night, I got a phone call and she called me up and she said, Luke, we're out of groceries and I'm wondering if you could bring me some groceries, like want to get some food to the little boy. And during that time, he would be at our place for like 5 days and then he'd be at her place for 2 days. And so I was kind of surprised because I was like, man, he just barely got there. And so I said, well, okay, I'll bring you some groceries, but I'm in like 2 towns away. And by the time I get there after what I'm doing, it'll probably be like 10 o'clock or later. Yeah, no problem. I finish what I'm doing. I go and I drive there and I go to this grocery store and I'm picking up stuff and I'm trying to think, okay, what do they need? What do they want? What would they eat? And after I get to the grocery store, I get the address because the place where they lived, it continually changed. It'd be here for a month, it'd be here for 3 weeks, it'd be here for 2 weeks. We were picking up and dropping them off at different locations all the time. And so I come to this area and I knew the location and it was like, this isn't the best part of town. I get the address and I walk up to the stairs and it's dark now. Lights are, the city is kind of hush and quiet. And come there, this little place is lit up. And as I open the door, the little guy just comes. And it was during that time that he called me Dad because I was the only father figure that he knew. And all the family had decided, yeah, it's okay. We don't mind if he calls you Dad. And so I open the door and there he comes. He's just no clothes on, wearing a little diaper. And he comes running up to me, oh, Dad. And he's hugging me. And I got these groceries and the mom comes in and as I walk into this little apartment, there's a guy on the couch by the TV and he's kind of passed out. And as I scan around, I'm looking around at what's there and I see there's stuff on the table of, maybe has been stolen paraphernalia, a boyfriend in the bedroom, door's kind of open. He won't even acknowledge I'm there. And so as I'm making small talk and I'm talking with the mom and we're working things and getting stuff and telling him, little guy kept coming. He was like, Dad, look at this little truck. Look at this truck I got. Oh, and he'd bring me this little truck. Whoa. Then he'd be like, whoa. And he'd be driving it on the carpet and show me these. Then he'd dash off into the room. And so I was talking to his mother. He'd come and he'd have a little bit bigger truck. Hey, what about this one? Yeah, it's pretty shiny. It's a nice car. Whoa, that's really neat. I love it. And over until finally it had been like probably 45 minutes. I'd played with them. And finally, the mom was like, yeah, thanks for coming. Probably need to get going. But the little guy, he just didn't want me to leave. So he was trying to figure out how to keep me. So he would go and he would bring a bigger truck and a newer truck and something else, whatever he could find. Finally brings this big fire truck out. And he drives up, and it's shiny and beautiful, thinking maybe this will hold my dad longer here. And I could sense it, I could feel it. My heart was just ripping apart inside. I'm like, man. Finally, the mom's like, you need to go. And so I'm like, okay, little buddy, I gotta go. I gotta go. Your mom says it's time for me to go. I gotta go. No, don't go, don't go. One more car. He gets another thing. And I'm giving him a hug, and his little soggy diapers just boom, boom, as he runs into the other room, and he comes, and I give him one more hug. I gotta go. Okay, I love you so much. I'll see you in a couple days. You need to leave, Luke. As I walk out, I go out to the door. It's pitch black. And I walk down those stairs, and I'm just like, as I could see, the little guy comes again and again, and he's trying to hold me. And I walk down those stairs, and I'm so angry, and I'm so frustrated. And there's tears coming down my eyes because I know I'm breaking his heart. He's trying to figure out, how do I keep my dad here? How do I keep him here? How can I get him? He wanted to be with me. And I get into my vehicle, and as I get to my vehicle, just stepping in, and it's all black and dark where I'm under a tree, and that only light is the square of the door. And the little guy comes right to the square of the door. And he's 2 years old, and he's standing at the door looking into the darkness, and all I see is a silhouette. He's like, Dad, at the top of his lungs, Dad, don't leave me. Don't leave me. And I'm there in my vehicle, and tears are just coming down my eyes, and I am just pounding the steering wheel, and I'm just grabbing the steering wheel, and I'm saying, God, how can you let this stuff happen? How can you do this? How can you let this stuff happen? This little boy is just like dying and screaming, and he doesn't want me to leave, and I have to leave. How can you let this happen? And it was like a voice just spoke to me at that moment. And he said, Luke, now you know how I feel. There's a text in the Bible, and it comes out of James. It comes out of James chapter 1, starting in verse 13, and we're actually going to read to verse 18. And this is what the Bible says. And it says, remember when you are being tempted, do not say, God is tempting me. God is never tempted to do wrong, and he never tempts anyone else. Temptation comes from our own desires, which entice us and drag us away, and these desires give birth to sinful actions, and when sin is allowed to grow, it gives birth to death. But in verse 16 it says, but don't be misled. Whatever is good and perfect is a gift coming down to us from God our Father, who created all the lights in the heavens. He never changes or casts a shifting shadow. Verse 18, it says, he chose to give birth to us by giving us his true word. And we, out of all creation, became his prized possession. You may have asked that question. Why all this pain and suffering? Why this injustice? Why are little kids hurt? Why did my brother die? Why? And we tend to blame God like I was that day, beating on the steering wheel saying, God, how could you let this happen? How could you let this happen? But there are rules. There are rules, just like what we were living under when the mother said, you need to drop off here. You need to pick him up now. You need to drop him off there. And I don't know how many times I can tell you where I dropped him off at a place where he's holding onto my neck and his little fingers are wrapped around so tight around my neck. I have to scrape and peel him off as he's saying, Dad, don't leave me here. I don't know these people. Dad, I don't know them. They might be in a crack house. It might be in a drug place. I don't know these people. And I have to leave them, because there's rules of engagement. And the same thing in this world, there are rules, but I want to tell you that every good and perfect gift comes from the Father above, and that Father loves you. And I want to invite you to choose him. And I also want to invite you to join us again next week as we continue answering the question, is God active?